Welcome back to another episode of Leveling Up. I'm Ariel and I'm your host. And actually, this is my first week that I'm going to try recording audio and a video so that I can post this on YouTube. So if this is a colossal failure, let me know. But I'm going to talk a little bit about failure today. So I guess you have to take a risk to go ahead and know what you're capable of. And we learn and we grow from there, just like I'm learning and growing with every episode. And welcome to episode number 2. And this is about celebrating your extra and about being too much. And for those of you who have been told that you're so extra and that you're just too much, well, welcome to my world. And I'm glad that we reside in this together. My entire life, actually, I've been told that I'm just so me. And I'm not quite sure what being so you even really means, but to kind of put it in perspective, when I was in high school, my high school boyfriend and I dated for the majority of I guess all of high school. And he would tell me that, well, actually, we also are still friends, but he would tell me that he wished that he had a recorder that he could walk around and just record me and record everything that I say and everything that I do. And he just thought that what I said and my perspective about the world was really hilarious. Now, this was in 1996 to 2000, and this was well before cell phones and the digital age. And little did we know that he was really onto something, that this would be the world that we would be residing in, that's saturated with content, showing everyone who we are, what we're doing, what we're eating. And the world that we reside in now is the world that he had foresaw back in 99, 2000. So here we are. And my high school boyfriend, Josh, you manifested this, so go you. When I was in high school, I had just come out of middle school where I had suffered from an eating disorder, and I had lost a lot of weight. And probably midway through elementary school, I had gained a lot of weight. And I was very, very, very heavy. And even though I was very athletic and played sports, I was a kid who shopped in the husky section and the plus size, I guess. And it was terrible. So I had developed an eating disorder in my middle school years, and I had lost a lot of weight, and I was not a popular kid. I did not have a lot of friends. And I came to high school and I was like this beautiful summer miracle / butterfly who all of a sudden, now I'm beautiful. Now all these people wanted to be my friends, and that's fine. In high school, I felt like I had gone through this metamorphosis, and with shedding all of the weight also came this kind of unveiling of my true essential self as far as expressing myself was concerned. And up until that point, when I was in middle school, I had to do everything that everyone else did. So when I was in middle school, the cool thing were Airwalks. And I know that I'm totally dating myself here, but Airwalks were a type of sneaker that was very, very expensive. And by very expensive, this was $60. So my mom and my dad were absolutely livid about having to buy me these sneakers. And then another cool thing was called recycled jeans. And this was basically buying used jeans that were distressed, that had holes in them. And now we don't buy recycled jeans. We actually pay for them to be brand new, to be distressed for us. But the look was in the 90s, the mid 90s, was these recycled jeans, Airwalks, and what we called a baby tee, which was basically a little cotton shirt with caplet sleeves. And I had one I vividly remember that had a Superman logo on the front of my chest. And it was patent leather, and it was raised, and it was hard, and it was so ugly. This was my first day of 8th grade outfit. I do have the picture, and I probably should have gotten it for this video, but I can't bear to share that with the world. But maybe on my IG, I'll share it, Ariel_Miller. Shameless self-plug right there. So fast forwarding back to high school, I wasn't that person where I had to wear what everyone else wore. And I was so intent prior to high school on wearing what everyone else wore that when I got to high school, it was this reinvention of myself. And it started with something as little as my mom had given me a velour jumpsuit, and I took the long sleeve and I cut the front of it so I made it like a cardigan. And when people would compliment me in high school and I'd walk down the halls, they'd be like, "I really like your cardigan. Where'd you get it?" And I'd be like, "It's vintage." It was my mom's. I would wear dresses over pants. I wore white eyeliner with glitter. And then I would take these Milky pens and I would draw all up my arms. And my eye makeup was was insane. And I did not wear the same outfit for the entire 4 years I was in high school. And I know you're thinking like, how is that possible? Well, I was creative. I did wear the same pieces, but I recycled them in a way where I didn't wear the actual same outfit. So like today I'm wearing this little lace getup with recycled jeans that you can't see and my black chucks and a black belt. I would wear these things again, but I would never actually wear them together. So you would see them repurposed in a different capacity. So in the 4 years I was in high school, I never ever wore the same outfit. So when I was a junior and senior, I got a job working at TJ Maxx. And then I also worked at Nine West, which totally fed into my ridiculous clothing obsession. And I just would buy things. I would buy so much that I never really took home a paycheck from TJ Maxx, which is fine. When I was in high school, I wore things like furry leopard jackets, high platform shoes. I would glue jewels on my face. I would take the front of my hair and I would roll it and twist it into like a type of space bun. And it was almost like a headband around the front of my head. And the only reason why I remember that is in my high school yearbook, there's a picture of me kissing my high school boyfriend on the cheek with these weird, bizarre space buns in the front of my head. And I didn't think it was weird. And I'm not quite sure if anyone else think it was weird, but the feedback that people would say to me is like, oh my God, you're so self-assured. And I touched on this on my first episode and I was, and it really just came from like, this is me. How I look is an extension of what I have going on inside. And that's who I am. I am bizarre. I am eccentric. I am strange. I am something that you can't quantify. You can't put your finger on it. I'm organic. I'm intangible. I'm entropy, whatever you want to use. My sister, who's 2 years younger than me, Cassie, is as normal as they come. She has a fantastic sense of style, but she is very classic. We are polar opposites. Her friends used to ask her if it were Halloween every day for me. And that's just how it's always been. And that's just how it's always going to be, because that is who I am. Every day is Halloween. Maybe I'm like related in some bizarre way to Tim Burton. I'm not quite sure. But the point is that this person or this persona isn't even really a created entity. It's actually who I am. And the reason why I say it's who I am is I took this personality test. And I took it this week. I'm not plugging it, so I'm not going to tell you where I did it. If you're interested, slide into my DMs and I'll tell you. But I took it because I was applying for this fitness gig that wasn't for me. But in any case, this test came back and it said that I am an ENFJ, which I know stands for something and I don't really recall, but I classified under the protagonist personality. And I want to read the quote that sums up my personality. And it's by David Dieta. Everything you do right now ripples outward and affects everyone. Your posture can shine, your heart or transmit anxiety. Let's do that again. Everything you do right now ripples outward and affects everyone. Your posture can shine, your heart or transmit anxiety. Your breath can radiate love or muddy the room in depression. Your glance can awaken joy. Your words can inspire freedom. Your every act can open hearts and minds. Well, that was much better. So the overview of my personality says that protagonists are natural born leaders, full of passion and charisma. Forming around 2% of the population, they are special. It doesn't say that, I just added that. They are oftentimes our politicians, our coaches, and our teachers, reaching out and inspiring others to achieve and to do good in the world. With a natural confidence that begets influence, protagonists take a great deal of pride and joy in guiding others to work together to improve themselves and their community. And that's really it. That is the summation of my episode, so I guess we're done. I'm just kidding. We're not actually done, but the reason why I'm sharing it is this is in essence. I mentioned that it's not quantifiable. So when we talk about celebrating your extra and being too much, is you don't have to have an explanation. You don't have to know why, where, and how it is. It just is. It is your essential self. It's who you are. To further frame it, I had auditioned for the Bay Club, as I had mentioned in my first episode, which was Spectrum. And this was one of my earlier auditions I had gone on in the industry. And it's very common to do like a round robin where it's a cattle call. So there's like 50 of us in a room and we all teach for a little while. And then you move on and we all take each other's class. And I auditioned for cycling and for yoga. And I remember being like super intimidated because before we actually went into the yoga room, there were all these girls outside asking each other and men, how much training you have. And, oh, I'm a 500 hour, I'm a 200 hour, oh, I teach here, I teach there. And I'm just sitting there like, I work at LA Fitness. So I was scared and my heart was racing because these people had so much more education than I had. And how and why would I be qualified for this role? I taught the cycling audition, then we went into the yoga audition. And in the yoga audition, I vividly remember there was this one woman who was taking us through this like internal organ journey in a twist posture and how it felt and what organs were being stimulated and what was being moved. And I thought it was fascinating. Long story short, I get the email and a call from the group fitness person and I got the job. So both cycling and yoga. And she brings me in and she tells me that they were very impressed with me and that I was the only one they hired. And I'm like, what? She's like, you're the only person we hired from both auditions. And I said, I am the only person you hired? Words cannot even begin to tell you. I couldn't believe that I was the person. And I said, thank you. And she said to me something that I've never forgotten and that I've really used this to share with other people. And she had shared and she said, you just had it. And I said, it? And she said, you have that it factor. And I think that's something that people who are actors or at least famous actors and successful entertainers, it's that it factor. It's that presence, right? You go on stage and everyone looks at you. And the way that I can relate this best to my life is I saw Wiz Khalifa open for Fall Out Boy. I'm not interested in Wiz Khalifa. I mean, like Black and Yellow is a pretty rad song, but like beyond that, I didn't really have an interest in him per se. My husband and I both were absolutely blown away by Wiz Khalifa. I loved his set to the point where I would actually go see him again. I would pay to go see him. His stage presence is electricity manifested in a man's body. He is so captivating and so dynamic and so passionate and so interesting to watch and listen to. It's something that is the it factor. That's it. So that is not something that you can teach. It's either you have it or you don't. And that's okay. It's okay because we can't just have a world of people that have it factors. We can't have a world of protagonists like myself. Everyone has a role. There are leaders, there are followers. There's always leaders need followers and followers need leaders. And people who have the it factor need people in the audience. So these people who are entertainers need others to watch them. And it's not a validation thing. It's a personality thing, right? It's that protagonist. It's that essential sense of self. And I'm just looking back at that paper here where it says it's, that it's a natural confidence that begets influence. Which as an educator and a fitness instructor, you need to have confidence. You need to have confidence when you're in front of a group of kids, and Lord help you if you don't and you're teaching middle school and high school, because those kids are going to eat you alive. Teenagers smell fear. In some respects, worse than dogs. When they smell fear, goodbye and good luck. It's all over. You need to stand in front of those kids and this is your domain. And the best is when I'd get girls who'd come in and they would, sass me and I'd pull them out in the hallway and I was like, listen, honey, I know that you think you're the queen bee, but there's one queen bee here and it ain't you. I mean, that's the reality. This is my domain and I am the queen here. I'm happy to have loyal subjects. But as a teacher, you have to have that sense of self to be yourself in front of your kids. You have to command presence. You have to stand in front of a room with those shoulders back and know that what you're offering these kids is valuable, but also you have to make yourself interesting to listen to, because as an educator, we're selling a product that nobody wants to buy. Especially I teach English. Nobody wants to buy what I'm selling. So how can I make this most dynamic, most interesting, most exciting? How can I package this in a way where I'm, masking the broccoli, with like butter and cheese when you're feeding children kind of thing. And it's the same with student teachers. It's the same with teachers that I mentor. There's that it factor, and either you have it or you don't. It's that dynamic presence of when you walk into a room and people are compelled to be around you. And I mentioned earlier that I don't think that this can be taught. I think it's a personality thing. And the only reason why I say that is from drawing it from my experience as a fitness professional and also as an educator. And when I was mentoring student teachers, and student teachers would say to me, well, how do I be like you? How do I do that? And I don't want anyone to ever be like me. God, I gotta tell you, I would hate a world of me's. I would hate to be my friend. And that's not because I don't think I'm awesome, but like, what makes this world a great place is that the world isn't me, is that everyone is different, everyone is unique, but you can command presence in a variety of ways. I tend to err more on more of an authoritative kind of thing, and same with my voice, and I'm just very strong, and perhaps that comes from being 5 feet tall and being a woman and feeling like there's always this incessant need to prove myself to everyone and anyone at any time. But you could still command attention from people without actually being this person who does so through strength per se. And here's what I'm getting to, because people who are these people who we look at who are so extra and who are too much are people that I believe are the following. People who read a lot. The more you read, the more you have this database to call upon, right? So the more information that you have up here inside your head is the more information you have to use in your oral language. So I hate to like nerd out and be such an English teacher here, but, or to quote Dr. Seuss, like the more you know, the places you'll go kind of thing, read more, learn more, change the globe kind of stuff. And that is the truth though, is the more you read, the more experiences that you are downloading to offer orally. And it kind of creates this opportunity for you to just pop things off when you're interacting with people, when you're talking to people, because you have these things in your database. And if you're not downloading information, if you're not reading, if you're not interacting with text, and I'm not talking about reading, Moby Dick, you can read anything you want to read. But if you're not reading, this database is empty. You have nothing. So if you're not filling this database, if you're not filling this pitcher, and you're going to empty this pitcher and fill other people's cups, or, fill the cups of others, you don't have anything to offer. So I believe these like really dynamic people, that part of that it factor is reading. And reading is what creates powerful orators like Barack Obama. These people who are captivating speakers are people who are well read. And I'm going to say highly educated, but you can also be an incredible orator, an incredible professional speaker, motivational speaker. You can be incredibly dynamic and not have a higher education, because it doesn't cost a thing to go to the library and check out a book. The second thing I think that makes these interesting people, these people who are the extra and too much of our society, is that they like people and that they like being the center of attention, like an all eyes on me kind of person. And maybe people who are dancers, especially, because all eyes are on them. People who go into these professions like politicians, like lawyers, like teachers, I feel are people who truly enjoy having other people watch them. And not from this like voyeuristic thing. For me, being in fitness and being a teacher, while I do love the stage and I love a mic and I love a large room of people, is I'm an energy person, and I'll get to energy a little bit later today, but I thrive on feeling what other people are putting out. And as an educator, and you know this, my teacher friends, you are a weatherman. And I say this all the time. I dictate the weather of my classroom. And as I mentioned before, I tend to be very firm. And since I know that about myself, that I always would cut my firmness with humor. And I think I'm hilarious. And if there have ever been adults in my classroom, sometimes the adults are hysterical and the kids have no idea what I just said because flew right over their head. And that's okay. But I've also known myself through my self-awareness that you can't always be very, very serious, that there comes a time and a place where you have to certainly lighten up just a little bit. So I cut that with humor. And I also like making people laugh. I like being in front of people. I like making them happy. I like helping them. I like walking around during class and helping someone with their deadlift form. I love walking around the gym and interacting with members and hearing about their goals. I love being a teacher and facilitating a discussion and listening to my students get it. And I love being that person, that vessel. And I think to be able to be one of those people who wants to be on stage, who wants to be that center of attention, is you must be self-aware and self-confident. And I'm willing to bet all of these people that would classify in this personality test that I took as protagonists, I'm willing to bet almost everything that I have, which isn't very much because I'm a teacher, is that these people have self-awareness, the ability to self-reflect, and above all, are truly authentically confident with who they are. I think to be a teacher at the secondary level, especially when those children could be brutal, the things I see as a mentor and a coach now, I'm appalled and my heart cries at some of the ways these children think it's okay to talk to an adult. But again, you have to stand in your power. You have to own your awesome. You have to be comfortable with this essence that you possess, because if you don't, others sense that. And owning your awesome and standing in your power, that self-confidence, it's infectious, it's contagious. It's that it factor that makes people want to be around you. And the final thing that I believe in my 4 points of interesting people is that everyone has a story. And I think the more interesting your narrative is, the more you have to offer this world. And I mentioned in my first episode that I've walked in tremendous darkness. And I am eternally grateful for the experiences that I've had in my life. And that includes my childhood. And we'll get to that maybe in another episode if I feel comfortable sharing it. But in my adult life, there were things that happened to me that I never thought would happen, or that was the path of my life. And having a story is what's created this person being able to overcome things, because the test of true character is not when it's easy. The truest test of character is what happens through adversity. And our character is only tested through adversity. And adversity is what makes us stronger. And I am grateful for the adversity I've experienced. And when I was teaching a yoga class, probably about, I guess it would be 5 years ago, this woman whom I didn't know, she comes into the yoga studio, and I used to stand behind the desk of my yoga studio and, shoot the shit and check members in and hang out with the front desk girl because she was my home girl. And this woman comes in and she's frazzled and she says, oh, my girlfriend just broke up with me and I'm a mess and I hate her and blah, 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 blah. And we're just, and she was just talking about how she really needs this. And she was asking about the class and talking to me. And we must have talked for about 15, 20 minutes. And she scooches over to the other side of the desk, and in walks this other woman, checks in and walks away. And the girl I had just been speaking to goes, that's her. I mean, what are the odds? But, LA is a big, small city, if you will, or a small, big city. I mean, whatever. But she got upset, and she was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. I'm working on myself, and she broke my heart, and now she's in this yoga class that I want to be in, and I can't be here. And I pulled this woman to the side and put my arm around her, and I've never met her in my life. And I said, look, I respect you if you have to leave. I said, I understand if you have to go. I said, nobody's going to judge you for leaving. I said, you've got to do you right now. I said, but I guarantee you if you stay, you'll be glad you did. And she stayed. And as we became friends, and we're still friends, she was, I went to her wedding recently, and she married a different woman, and she's happily married, and it's beautiful. But she said to me that the moment she met me, and then when she took my class, she heard the strength in my voice, that I was someone who walked in darkness and emerged on the other side. And she said, as somebody who was walking in that darkness, that she could feel that, and that's what made her feel connected to me and want to come back and to find yoga and to commit to a yoga practice and work on her healing. And that's why I think that our stories that are the sum of our life's events and experiences are the value in creating dynamic people. And the thing is how you embody and live your life beyond these events and experiences is really 100% up to you. I mean, your free choice and your free will. So you could choose to let these experiences absolutely and utterly and completely destroy you, or you can use these experiences to craft a narrative of strength, of empowerment, of glory, of growth. The choice is yours. So whether you're, a protagonist or not, you don't have to, take a personality test to know who you are. And you don't have to have that intangible it factor. But from what I believe is that if you have a message that you want to share with people and you want to be this person that people listen to, is, to recap, you got to read. Get your hands on something, anything, read it. Like people, hence being the center of attention. And not even just like people, like love people. Like being around them, serving them, helping them, uplifting them, motivating them. Being self-aware and self-confident and having the strength to stand in your power. And to celebrate your narrative, to have a story. And I say celebrate because our narratives are powerful. And while we think our stories stand in isolation, they don't. We always think we're alone, and we're not. And sharing our stories, that vulnerability is strength. Being able to bring people into your world and tell them, like, this is me, this is who I am, and I'm not afraid of that, is beautiful. And that is power, not hiding it and burying it away deep in your heart and bitter and angry to the world, because that's just going to eat you up. Anger is acidic for your soul and for your heart and for your mind and for your body. There is a physical connection to anger. And we're going to get to that because I was at this really rad Reiki healing event last night that I'm going to talk to you guys about, actually. So the idea of standing in your power and being confident and self-aware is that people want to be around others who radiate light. People want to be around others who have these good vibes. And it's taken me a really long time. I'm 36 years old, so I'm an old lady. It's taken me the greater portion of my adult life to really realize what that looks like. And what that looks like is cutting out people who don't serve me, toxic people. And it doesn't have to be this like end all be all blowout of a fight. Like cutting out people just means you know that you have certain friends for certain things, and that's okay. Maybe your best friend from your teens isn't your best friend anymore, but you're still good friends and you still care about each other and you can still go out to lunch. There's nothing wrong with that, but you don't have to be best friends and hold on to something that isn't there anymore. And there's nothing wrong with that. When I was a lot younger, many people I dated were embarrassed by me. And I vividly remember 2 boyfriends that I've had. Actually, I'm going to say 3. So 3 serious, here's the air quotes again, serious boyfriends that I've had that had issues with who I was. One of my boyfriends, when we were at dinner at his parents' house, I was talking about how I didn't want to have children. I was 23, 24, 25 at the time, and I didn't want to have children. And I was sharing about this. It was in context, of course. And he puts his hand on top of my thigh and he squeezes my thigh. And I shoot a look over at him and I look at him and he squeezes my thigh again. And that was the first of many experiences in my adulthood of dating men that had a response to me being myself. And I don't think I had the strength when I was younger to say to these people, like, fuck off. Like, don't you tell me who I am and what I can say. But there's always someone who's going to try to dull your shine. And there's always someone who's going to try to tell you to be less of yourself. And I've been told many times by people in companies that, you know, could you just be a little less of you? That's pretty heartbreaking because I like me and there's plenty of people that like me. And the reality is I don't really care because, you know, other people liking you is a bonus. You liking yourself is the real prize. So if someone doesn't like me, like I'm truly sorry. But over the years, I have gone out on auditions for fitness gigs. I have been passed up for things. As a matter of fact, I was representing a clothing line many years ago, and I'm not going to say their name because my job here is not to throw people under the bus, but they had been shooting one of the girls I had worked at a yoga studio with and putting her on the IG, and you know, her account was blowing up, and exposure is everything. And I was representing them. You know, I had my discount code and I wore their clothes and I had cards and I pushed their clothes on people. So I reached out to them because, you know, if you don't ask, the answer is always no, right? So I reached out to them and I said, hey, I noticed, you know, that so-and-so is, you know, being photographed and I work with her at the studio and I am also an ambassador and I would really love to be photographed. I would, you know, making myself available. I'm ready and I teach multiple formats and I would love to be able to be featured. And they wrote me back and they said, thank you so much for your email, Ariel. However, you are not what we are looking for right now. I am not what you're looking for, but I'm good enough to sell your clothes. Screw you. So I deleted their information from my profile and I just, you know, that was the end of that. I find it to be incredibly ironic that I'm good enough to push your product, yet not good enough to be photographed. And that's my frustration with the fitness industry in general, is that people who are so uniquely different are not heralded for that, or we don't celebrate diversity. We don't put magazines and billboards and ambassadors of people that show women of all different shapes and sizes. I'm 5 feet tall. I'd like to just go into a store one time and buy a pair of leggings that comes down to my ankles and fits me. I also would like to see a woman in an ad who doesn't have a perfectly manicured body. I just would like to see some variety in the world, because that is the world. It is filled with variety. So I've always struggled with the aspect of people trying to tell me to be less of myself. I've had people tell me to lose weight. Oh my God. I did this yoga teacher training. It's a unique yoga teacher training. And it was really out of my comfort zone because it was a very rhythmic dancing kind of yoga format. And anyone who knows me, you're probably cringing right now at the thought of me dancing because it's a horrible thing, like burn the retinas of your eyes kind of thing. I am a horrific dancer. I have no sense of rhythm at all. And actually, correct that. I do have a sense of rhythm. What I'm hearing is not what you're hearing. So I had done this class, and part of the class was we did a teach back in front of everyone. And I did my teach back and I killed it. And then part of it was this person who founded this format in this company, you wound up debriefing with her on the format. So I was debriefing with her and she gives me these great compliments. And she's like, holy hell, girl, do you have a presence? You walk into the front of that room and it's like, all eyes on me. You are captivating. And she said to me, and I quote her, No wonder why you're such a popular instructor. Then she proceeds to tell me that she thinks I could go really far with this brand, but unfortunately my physique is off brand. And I looked at her and I said, what do you mean my physique? And she's like, well, you're going to have to lose some weight if you would like to go further with this company and this brand. And I know that I had no response to that because I could not believe that someone had the audacity to say that. She looked me dead in the face and called me fat. I wish in hindsight that I had the gumption to say something. Like, I wish that I said, like, are you out of your mind? But I didn't. And I have to own the fact that for many years of my life, I allowed people to devalue me and talk to me in a certain way. And I accepted that because I don't think I fully understood my full self-worth. And also because at the time you're so shocked, like you can't believe this is happening, that somebody actually has the gall to sit there and say you're too fat. So the thing is surrounding yourself with people who vibrate higher. That person and that type of yoga isn't going to work for my vibrations. It's not going to help me vibrate higher. So in coming to this Reiki training that I went to yesterday, and just so you guys know, is that Reiki is Japanese, and Rei means divine source. I'm just reading this off of this really cool paper that we got last night. Divine source and higher consciousness, universe, God, and goddess. And Ki means energy and life force. And the 5 spiritual Reiki concepts are: 1, do not worry. 2, do not anger. 3, be humble. 4, be honest in your work. And 5, be compassionate to yourself and all living beings. What beautiful tenets to live your life by, right? The reason why I'm talking about this vibrational thing, because there's this book that we were introduced to last night at this healing circle called Power versus Force. And I haven't read it yet, but I'm going to order it on Amazon. The author of the book, Dr. David Hawkins, what he did is he calibrated emotions with kinesiology, like muscle testing. And basically there is science to support vibrational energies and our responses to things and emotions. And there's this scale that he uses. And at the very, 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 very bottom of the scale is shame. And then all the way at the very top of the scale is enlightenment. But it goes from shame, guilt, apathy, grief, fear, desire, anger, pride, courage, neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, love, joy, peace, and enlightenment. And he ranks all of these things based upon his research and testing in, I think like megahertz or some sort of electronical or electric kind of energy in our muscles. So again, don't quote me on the science, and I haven't read the book. I'm kind of summarizing this experience that I had yesterday, and because it was powerful and it really resonated with me. And the idea is surrounding yourself with people who are on a higher vibrational level. So you think about it, you know, how many times have you surrounded yourself with people that you felt dragged you down, that their energy was so heavy, and that I like to call them energy vampires, that after you leave them, you're like, oh my God, I'm so depleted. And then on the other side of that are those people who you walk away from and your soul and your heart are on fire. Those are the people that vibrate higher. Those are the people to surround yourself. Those are your people. And those are the people that are living their truth. And it's important because when you're not yourself, you're not living your truth. So being extra, being too much, listening to people tell you that you're to this or you're to that, if you actually really internalize what they're saying, it's going to be damning. And damning for a lot of reasons, because establishing your own identity and listening to your inner voice is the greatest gift that you can give yourself. To me, that's trust. That's believing that you're valuable and that you're worthy. And if you do not have your own identity and you're listening constantly to this dialogue of other people, you're never going to really find out who you are. And at the end of the day, when everything is stripped down to nothing, you're left with yourself. That's it. When you drift off to sleep at night, there's no one's there. You don't have Instagram, you don't have Facebook, you don't have all these bells and all these whistles and Snap and da-da-da-da-da. It's just you. And as you're drifting off to sleep, if you are not listening to yourself, you're not living your truth. And I believe that in order to vibrate higher is that living your truth, establishing your own identity and listening to your inner voice, like, facilitates courage, which leads to other things. So, you know, in that chart that I had read to you, courage is kind of that midpoint that then leads to neutrality, willingness, acceptance, reason, love, and so on. So, you know, courage is taking a leap. It's coming back to listening to that inner voice. It's saying, like, I am valuable, I am worthy. And with courage comes this release or relinquishing rather, of fear. Because on the other side of fear is growth. And we're so afraid of what other people think that we don't try. And we need to stop listening to the voices of others, turn that volume down and turn the volume up of our inner voice and listen to ourselves so that we can vibrate higher. And I think that when you facilitate that self-courage, then it leads to letting go of fear, which leads to growth and that need to stop impressing others. Because once you stop trying to impress others, everything falls into place because you're just doing you, boo, and you're thriving. Is that you establish boundaries. And as a woman, establishing boundaries is so important. A friend sent me a quote that I'm kind of gonna like modify, and it's like, good statements for women to practice. And it's not even for women, but I'm gonna actually say it really is for women. Is statement 1, no. Statement 2, you interrupted me, I'm not finished yet. Statement 3, that's not funny. Statement 4, you're making me uncomfortable. Statement 5, this is sexual harassment and I don't need to take this. And statement 6, that or this is inappropriate. And setting boundaries is what I would consider the embodiment of all of what I had just mentioned about, you know, living your truth, being your essential self, establishing your own identity, facilitating courage, ultimately letting go of fear. But those boundaries are saying that I choose me. Those boundaries are saying that I know what I'm worth and you're not going to treat me like shit. And those boundaries say that I value myself enough to know that what I'm worth and what I'm not going to take. So to close this episode, which I want to make markedly shorter than the first one, to close this episode, I want you to celebrate your extra. I want you to be too much. I want you to celebrate that dynamic person that you are and to celebrate those dynamic people in your lives. And I want you to vibrate higher. So establish your own identity, find your courage, let go of fear, and set those boundaries because, my friends, you are worth it. Thank you so much for listening to episode 2 of Celebrate Your Extra, Be Too Much on Leveling Up with Ariel Miller. If you liked what you heard, please, please, please subscribe, favorite, rate, and leave a review. Also, you can find me on the Instagram at Ariel_Miller. And I do read my other messages, so slide on into my DMs if you have any questions, comments, or there are things that you'd like me to talk about. Love you, mean it, my friends, and do life better. Mwah!